Maybe you've wondered, does she ever realize what she lost? The late night thoughts, the what ifs, the constant replay of everything you gave, your time, your loyalty, your effort. You did everything right. You were patient when she was distant. You tried to fix things when she stopped caring, and yet she walked away. If this is you, you've probably asked yourself 1,000 times, does she ever feel it? Does she ever miss the way you made her feel safe? The way you listened, even when she didn't deserve it? Maybe you lie awake some nights thinking, how can she move on like it meant nothing? When it meant everything to me, you remember how she looked at you before things changed, how her tone softened when she said your name, and now it's silence, cold, detached, like you never existed. That's the part that cuts deepest, because you weren't just a chapter in her story, you were the whole damn book. And now you're wondering, what happens after she loses a man who genuinely cared? Does she feel regret? Does she realize too late that real love doesn't come twice? Or does she only understand your value once you're gone for good? Stay right here, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what happens inside a woman's mind when she loses a good man like you. Listen, brother, most men get this part completely wrong. When a woman walks away or loses you, your instinct is to prove your worth, to show her what she's missing, to remind her that you were the good one. You start thinking maybe if you say the right words or show how much you care, she'll wake up and realize what she had. But here's the truth. That's not strength. That's fear disguised as love. A good man doesn't chase what already knows his value. He doesn't need to convince anyone of his worth, because his actions, his presence, and his peace already do the talking. When a woman loses a good man, she might not see it at first. She's caught up in the noise, the attention, the distractions, the illusion that something better is waiting. But that illusion always fades. The high always drops. And when it does, reality hits her harder than she ever expected. Here's where most men fail. They try to speed up a realization. They can't sit with the silence. They panic. But a man grounded in himself knows that time works in his favor. He doesn't move from emotion. He moves from principle. That's the core of masculine energy. Stillness with purpose. You don't react to loss. You let the distance reveal your value. See, what you have to understand is that a woman can only recognize a good man once she's experienced the emptiness that comes after him. You can't teach her that lesson with words. You teach it with absence. Your silence is the mirror that forces her to face herself, so don't lose your frame. Don't beg for recognition. Don't try to reopen doors that were meant to close. A man's worth isn't proven by who chooses him. It's shown by how he carries himself when he's no longer chosen. That's the quiet power most men never master. And when you finally stop trying to make her see what she lost, that's when she truly starts to. She's sitting in her car, engine off, staring at her phone screen that hasn't lit up in days. The same playlist is playing softly. Songs that used to remind her of freedom now just echo with emptiness. The city moves outside her window, people laughing, cars passing, but inside it's just quiet, heavy quiet, the kind that reminds her what's missing. She scrolls through old messages, not to read them, but to feel them. The tone of your words, the way you used to check in just to make sure she'd eaten. Back then she thought it was clingy, too much. Now she reads them and whispers to herself, God, he actually cared. You used to pick her up without saying much. One look, one slight grin, and she felt safe. You'd listen to her talk about her day, about things you didn't even care about, but you listened anyway because that's what a man does. He shows up. And she never noticed how rare that was until you stopped. Now every man she meets talks a lot but says nothing. They touch her body but never reach her soul. And when they leave, she doesn't even feel the need to cry anymore. It's just numbness. The kind that follows when you've already lost something real. Some nights she dreams of you, not the fights, not the ending. Just simple moments, the way you'd hand her your hoodie when she was cold, the quiet mornings where she'd pretend to still be asleep just to feel your arm around her. And when she wakes up for a second, she forgets you're gone. Then it hits like a slow burn in the chest. And she lays there staring at the ceiling, whispering to herself, he was good to me. And I pushed him away. Meanwhile, you're not angry anymore. You've outgrown the noise. You don't check her stories, don't replay the what-ifs. You've accepted that love can't survive where respect is missing, and that's the part she never understood. Your silence wasn't punishment, it was peace. She'll tell her friends she's fine, that she's moved on. But every now and then, when she's alone, she catches a scent that reminds her of you, or a phrase someone says the same way you did, and for a moment, everything around her disappears, and she's back there with you. The good man she lost because she thought he'd always be there. That's what happens after she loses a good man. The world keeps moving, but her heart doesn't, because once a woman feels what it's like to be loved by a man who is gentle but firm, calm but strong, caring but grounded, she can never unfeel it. She can try to forget, she can try to replace it, but she'll always compare. And deep down she knows She'll never find that kind of love again, not because it doesn't exist, but because she already had it and she let it go. Most men believe that when a woman walks away, the story's over, that once she's gone, she's moved on, and you've lost. But brother, that's not the truth. What actually happens after a woman loses a good man doesn't start the moment she leaves. It starts in the silence that follows. Here's the first false belief. Men think a woman realizes her mistake immediately. You picture her crying, missing you, regretting it right away, but that's not how it works. When you've been solid, consistent, and real, she doesn't feel the weight of that loss right away. At first, she feels free. She thinks she's escaping routine, seriousness, maybe even your calm energy that she mistook for emotional distance. But slowly, that calm she once complained about becomes the peace she can't find anywhere else. The stability she thought was boring starts to feel like home. And while you're sitting there wondering why she doesn't miss you yet, what you don't see is that she's going to, because regret doesn't come in noise, it comes in quiet moments. It's when no one's texting back, when she's laughing with someone new but doesn't feel seen, when she starts to realize he wasn't perfect but he was good and I'll never find that again. But here's the second false belief. You think her loss defines your value. You think if she leaves, it means you weren't enough, that you did something wrong. But listen closely. A woman walking away doesn't lower your worth. Sometimes it just means she couldn't match it. You were offering something her emotional maturity couldn't hold yet. And that's not your burden to carry. Most men give away their power, trying to prove to a woman that they're irreplaceable. But here's the truth. You only become irreplaceable when you stop trying to prove it. When your energy stops chasing validation and starts protecting your peace, everything changes. You start to heal, grow, rebuild. You stop needing closure because you become the closure. She didn't ghost you. You disappeared from yourself trying to keep her. Read that again. You lose yourself the moment. You make her opinion the measurement of your worth. You lose your masculine grounding when you let her emotions dictate your direction. The strongest men, the ones women regret losing, are the ones who stay rooted in who they are no matter what happens. The truth is, when a woman loses a good man, it doesn't always look dramatic from the outside, but inside it's deep. Because you weren't just another guy, you were the calm in her chaos, the mirror that showed her who she really was. And when that mirror breaks, she's left facing her reflection alone. That's when it hits her, not in weeks, but sometimes months later. And by the time she realizes what she lost, you've already evolved past needing her recognition. That's the quiet power of a grounded man. He lets go without bitterness because he knows what he brings. So don't waste your energy trying to make her understand your value. Stand firm in it. Keep your heart open, but your standards high, because the right woman won't need to lose you to learn your worth. She'll recognize it while she still has you. And that, brother, is the difference between chasing validation and embodying value. Most men panic when a woman walks away. They spiral. They start replaying every moment, overanalyzing what they said, what they didn't say, how they could have been better. They think if they just fix themselves fast enough, maybe she'll notice, maybe she'll come back. But the three-man, he doesn't chase, he centers. This is what he understands. When a woman leaves a good man, it's not the end of his story, it's the beginning of hers. He knows that her journey after losing him isn't his responsibility to guide or fix. It's hers to face. So instead of reacting from fear, he leans into stillness. That's his power. That's his difference. Most men move from emotion. The 3% man moves from principle. He doesn't let rejection define his identity, because his value was never built on being chosen. It was built on who he is when no one's watching. That's the shift. From needing validation to embodying conviction, this is what he understands. Presence is louder than pressure. When you carry peace in your energy, the world feels it. So does she. While others chase, call, post, prove, the 3% man does something rare. He lets time reveal the truth. He knows that no woman forgets the man who stayed calm when she expected him to crumble. He leads with self-respect, not reaction. He's not trying to make her regret it. He's not counting the days she's gone or comparing himself to the next guy. He understands something deeper. What a woman loses when she loses a good man isn't just attention or affection. It's stability. It's the quiet confidence that only comes from a man who knows who he is. This is how he leads with presence, not pressure. He focuses on growth, on purpose, on staying grounded in his masculine frame. He becomes more disciplined, more centered, more still, not to impress her, but because he refuses to abandon himself again. The 3% man doesn't chase her energy, he refines his own. He understands that love, when it's real, doesn't need convincing. It needs alignment. And if she couldn't see his worth while he was there, she'll see it in his absence. Not because he flaunted his progress, but because his peace became undeniable. The 3% man knows that women don't regret losing a man who begged. They regret losing the one who didn't need to beg, the one who stayed calm, kept walking, and never looked back with resentment. Because that energy That balance of heart and strength is unforgettable. And maybe she'll come back. Maybe she won't. But by then, it won't matter. Because he's already become the kind of man who doesn't wait for anyone to choose him. He's already chosen himself. That's the mindset shift. Not control, not revenge, just awareness. Awareness that real masculine energy isn't about winning her back. It's about never losing yourself again. So stay grounded. Stay focused. Stay calm. Because the man who leads with presence doesn't chase what left. He attracts what's real. It happens quietly, not with some grand epiphany or a dramatic outburst, but in an ordinary moment. Maybe you're standing in the shower, water running down your face, and suddenly it's just clear. The ache that used to sit in your chest isn't as heavy anymore. The memories still come, but they don't sting the way they used to. It's like the fog finally lifts and you can see what you couldn't before. You remember how much you gave, the patience, the late night talks, the way you showed up even when you were tired, even when you didn't feel seen. You carried the connection, you held space for her storms, and for the first time, instead of feeling bitter, you just understand, you realize that loving deeply was never your weakness, it was your strength. You were steady in a world that worships chaos. That's when it clicks. The truth you've been running from, you weren't broken because she left. You broke yourself trying to make her stay. You bent. You compromised, you dimmed your own light just to keep the connection alive. But peace was never supposed to cost you your power. You start to see it now. Every moment you spent trying to prove your worth was really just a way of saying, I don't believe I'm enough yet. And that's when the real shift happens. When you stop asking, will she ever realize what she lost? And start asking, why did I forget what I had? You stand there still, breathing, and it feels different. The silence doesn't hurt, it heals. You stop waiting for the phone to light up, stop wondering who she's with or what she's doing, because for the first time, you're not waiting for her to remember you. You're remembering yourself. That's the turning point, not the day she regrets it, not the day she reaches out. It's the day you do, the day you remember the calm you brought into her chaos, the loyalty you gave freely, the way your presence steadied everything around you. You remember that you were the safe place. You were the good man. And that kind of energy doesn't just disappear, it expands. You realize now that losing you wasn't her punishment. It was her lesson. But more importantly, it was your liberation. Because the moment you stopped chasing what didn't honor you, you came back home to yourself. And as you stand there in that stillness, no noise, no need, no begging, you feel something sacred rise inside you. Self-respect, peace, power. It doesn't roar. It hums quietly, steady, sure. The same way real strength always does. You look back one last time, not with pain, but with clarity. And you finally whisper, maybe out loud, maybe just to yourself, she didn't lose me when she walked away. She lost me when I stopped waiting. And in that moment, you stop mourning what's gone. You start building what's next, because the good man she lost finally remembers who he's always been. She'll remember your silence long after she's forgotten your voice, because it's in that silence she'll finally hear the truth of who you were and who you became when you stopped waiting to be seen. And maybe she'll think it was strength that made you let go, but you'll know it was peace. The kind of peace that doesn't need to prove or chase or convince anymore, because when a good man finally remembers his worth, the world doesn't just lose him, it learns from him.